Raffaele Moro is in your shot right now. The Italian, the first player to clinch this top 8. He's taking on the one Japanese player in this top 8. Masashiro Kuroda, definitely the hometown hero. He's from Osaka, very near Kobe. And they are very early in game number 2 right now. Kuroda won the first game, but he missed his 4th land drop in this game. So it's about turn 4. Moro just resolved a Solemn Simulacrum, and basically all the players have done is play lands. So we're going to watch game number 2. A pair of mono red decks. How do you think this matchup plays out, Brian? What are the real differences between the decks?
Well, one of the big differences that, at least in game 1, that Kuroda has a huge complement of burn spells.
Okay.
He has Shrapnel Blast and Barbed Lightnings and Pulse of the Forge and Fireball.
That's a lot of burn.
His deck in the mono red mirror is all about just going to your face and like hitting you for 20 with burn spells. Moro has a fairly similar strategy, but he used copies of Grab the Reins in the main deck in order to both take out big creatures as well as just kill his opponents.
So it's pure burn versus Grab the Reins? Well, pure burn appears to have worked out. Kuroda took the game 1 lead. And these 2 Solemn Simulacrums from Moro, that seems really good here. I mean, Kuroda has sort of hiccuped on mana, but then Solemn Simulacrum, Kuroda felt he had to burn it, didn't really want to take a bunch of damage while he's trying to draw lands. Down comes Simulacrum number 2, and the Italian might just even this match.
I mean, there's certainly a big part of this matchup is mana advantage. I mean, those big fireballs, they don't make themselves. You need a bunch of lands in order to send a fireball at your opponent's face. And right now, Moro has them and Kuroda doesn't. Solemn Simulacrum is also really important because it's a threat that can actually get in damage as well as expand your mana base. And if your opponent does kill it, that's more cards for you. They can get you to your land into your burn spells.
Fair enough. 2 of the more experienced players in this top 8, actually. They only have 1 top 8 at the Pro Tour between the 2 of them. That was Moro back at Worlds 99, but both of them have been playing since the late 90s. Kuroda, one of the more respected Japanese players in the game. He's a veteran of the team format. That seems to be where he's had his best successes. But, I mean, very well respected. Everybody likes him, and everybody's cheering for him here. Moro, meanwhile, one of the veterans of the Italian scene. Like we said, top 8 back at Worlds in '99, which was in Japan, by the way. Seems to like Japan somehow. So
it would seem.
So Fireball took down that 2nd Solemn Simulacrum, but a 3rd one came out.
This is a nightmare.
It's pure card advantage. Absolutely pure card advantage. He's getting, is it 3 for 1 every time?
Every single time he's Ancestral Recalling.
It's pretty good. Gets the land, gets the card, gets the Fireball out of Kuroda's hand. Kuroda still stuck on 3 land, and there's land number 4. All right, game on. Now what?
Now I think he needs to start casting Yens of his own. I was actually sitting next to Jens.
There he is. There's Jens.
I was sitting next to Jens, actual Jens, the player rather than the card, and he summoned himself.
Did he?
And I was just, he didn't even smile when he did it. I looked over, he just plays himself.
Well, it's Jens. You can't expect to smile from him. He is the Solemn Simulacrum.
I actually looked over and I'm like, you just played yourself and you can't even crack a smile? And I got a grin out of him. I was very proud of myself.
Nice. Jens Turen, for those of you who don't know the story, won the Magic Invitational last year and won the right to make his own Magic card. He submitted Solemn Simulacrum costing 2 a blue and a green. And R&D changed it into an artifact so it would fit better in the Mirrodin block. And then pretty much ran the card just the way he suggested it.
Marco was actually talking the other day. It was really amusing. He was saying, if I ever won the Invitational, I'd make sure my card was not a chump blocker. that's basically what Solemn Simulacrum's done all weekend is come out and get a land and block something that get you a card. You'd like to be a little more impressive.
It's a good card, though.
It's an excellent card. I mean, there's 4 copies of them, and actually the majority of the decks in this top 8. Every non-affinity deck in this top 8 has 4 copies of Solemn Simulacrum. Wow. Which speaks highly of how powerful it is.
Meanwhile, Raffaele Moro detonated the Simulacrum that Kuroda played, swung with his own, and we finally got some damage. Blood has been spilled. Moro has the early lead. I believe it's 14 to 20, or is it 16?
He got in with the Simulacrum as well, so the life totals are 14 to 20 right now.
Yep.
And the lands are a lot to not so many. Although Kuroda is up to 6.
Yeah.
But he's been expending cards to deal with his opponent's Simulacrums, and Moro's just been building them up.
It's another good look at Moro. He was the first player to clinch top 8. He got to the top 8 with 3 rounds to go, and he already knew he was in.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
It's an excellent feeling.
Update on another match, actually. Stefano Fiori has taken a 2-1 lead over Alexandre Passet. So, 2-1 for the Italian. 3 Italians in this top 8. There only ever been one major international event with 2 Italians in the top 8. That was Worlds way back in 1995, before there even was a Pro Tour.
That was Andrea Reddy.
Yep.
And
Ivan Carina.
Yeah, yep.
So 2 Italians in that Worlds, not really counted as a Pro Tour because the Pro Tour sort of started up the year after that. So I think this is really the first time there's been more than 1 Italian in the top 8 of a Pro Tour, and we've got 3.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive accomplishment.
Yeah. 2 of them worked together. The other 2, Sprazzi and Fiori. Lamoro has a different deck. Lamoro has Furnace Dragons, whereas those guys ran Slip Firewalkers. But all 3 of them playing mono red.
I was really surprised to see that neither of the other 2 Italian decks have access to Furnace Dragon.
Right,
Anywhere.
I thought Furnace Dragon was the reason the mono red decks were doing so well. It seems like it just smashes Affinity.
And it's also, I mean, against the other mono red decks, casting your gigantic 5/5 flyer isn't so bad either.
Sure, sure.
And especially if it blows up a bunch of their land as well.
But that's not the way Fiori and Sprazzi went. They felt that their deck was good enough against Affinity, and the Furnace Dragons were not as good as, say, Molten Rains or Slith Firewalkers against the rest of the field. So the mono red decks clearly were underestimated, I think.
Oh, I think certainly that most players didn't really have probably good enough versions of the mono red decks.
That's fair. So in testing, most people didn't realize you could beat Affinity with it, and they just ran with Affinity.
Well, I mean, I think other than I think a lot of players weren't necessarily playing, the versions of mono red that were extremely anti-Affinity in the main deck. I mean, a lot of players, they probably weren't playing against Furnace Dragon in game 1. And I mean, when you have Furnace Dragon in game 1, things get a lot different.
Sure.
There's also the fact that the mono red decks aren't very good against a lot of the decks that aren't very good in the format. So until you get your good decks, until you start developing good Affinity decks, and realize that a lot of other decks simply aren't viable because they can't beat the Affinity decks, then you have decks that you aren't certain how good they are.
The light weenie equipment deck.
Well, I mean, like for instance, one of the decks that was really important in our playtesting was a Deathcloud deck early on.
Okay.
And the Deathcloud deck beat every non-Affinity deck. I mean,
a lot of people seem to spend a lot of time on Deathcloud. They really wanted to make that card work.
I spent the majority of my early playtesting was all on Deathcloud decks, and once it wasn't until we realized that there was no way to make the Deathcloud deck beat a Skullclamp Affinity deck that we were able to move on to other decks and realize that okay, we can play these mono red decks that can't possibly beat the Deathcloud deck because people won't be able to play the Deathcloud deck. I mean, that's one of the interesting things about metagaming in block-constructed formats is that in a lot of cases, there may be a wider variety of decks that could be played, but there aren't necessarily as wide a variety of decks that will be played in numbers because they can't beat the better decks in the format.
Makes sense. Not a lot going on, meanwhile, in this match. There are no permanents in play other than lands. I missed the fate of that last copy of Jens Turen's Invitational card, but both players have a bunch of lands and a grip full of cards, and they're trying to figure out how to navigate this mid-game.
So this is where Kuroda's heavy burn component can come in handy.
Okay.
The games tend to slow down and get to a mid game, and I mean even if Lamoro gets ahead, I mean 4 copies of Pulse of the Forge can end the game really quickly, even from a disadvantaged position.
I saw a lot of games get won by Pulse of the Forge,
especially because of a disadvantaged position.
I saw a lot of games end with Pulse of the Forge. I did not realize how much damage you could do with that card.
there can be. I saw games where it was someone would attack. It's like, okay, during your second main phase, I'll mana burn.
Right.
During your end step, I'll pulse you, untap, pulse you.
Stalking Stones activates and attacks, but it gets hit by Barbed Lightning.
With Entwine.
With the Entwine.
Boom.
Man down.
See, like I was saying, this is the sort of situation where all those burn spells can come in really handy.
And as a response, Grab the reins, flings the stalking stones at his opponent's head. That's
Well,
kind of funny.
he got 2 for 1 there. He lost his grab the reins.
Yeah, grab the reins and stalking stones seems more valuable than just a barbed lightning. But
Although I mean he does prevent 3 to himself and deal 3 to his opponent. So I mean it depends how important
that's true.
that life total.
yeah, no, does it fizzle the entwine of barbed lightning? No, it doesn't. There's two
it doesn't
targets.
fizzle it.
Barbed lightning has 2
Oh.
targets, so,
So, yeah,
it
that-
targets the player and it targets the creature.
So that seems.
It's basically I want to cash my grab the reins in
Yeah,
for
it's
damage.
basically just.
Oh, is that
seems bad.
big fireball? Dome for 6 from Masashiro Kuroda. Just taps out for fireball.
He can just go fireball, fireball, fireball.
He can. I think that's the plan. Oh, here's a fireball back the other way. Moro fireballs for, is that 7? So Kuroda down to 4. 4 to 9. Kuroda has fireball for 4.
Shrapnel blast.
And shrapnel blast. Wow. Dome shot after dome shot. Kuroda goes fireball you, shrapnel blast you, fireball you, plus the barbed lightning. All of a sudden, Raffaele Moro is burnt to a crisp, and Masashiro Kuroda has a 2-0 lead. Wow, how about that? We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more coverage of the quarterfinals right after this. Welcome back to the Pro Tour Kobe quarterfinals. We're getting ready for game number 3 between Raffaele Moro and Masashiro Kuroda. Raffaele Moro trails 2 games to 0. The lone Japanese player in this top 8 looking to go through to the semifinals. It's mono red versus mono red, and we saw a lot of red burn in the last game.
Absolutely. I mean, it was like something out of the local Friday Night Magic, just throwing red burn spells at your
Dome
face.
you with a fireball, dome you, shrapnel blast, fireball.
Die, die, die. Ah.
Burninating the peasants.
Burninating the countryside. That's a lot of Blink Moth Nexuses.
Masashiro Kuroda continuing a fine tradition of Japanese players getting through to top 8s. Their streak is up to like 10 Pro Tours.
Oh, there's been Japanese players in many Pro Tour
every
top
event
8s
this
now.
year, and I think was it every event last year? No, back to like the Team Pro Tour. They haven't done well in the Team Pro Tours.
There hasn't been a Japanese team in the top 8 up for a Pro Tour. There was, I mean, Kuroda was the member of the
PS2,
team that
which
won
won
the
the Masters.
Masters series in Venice.
Yeah. Japanese players have been getting there. They have yet to actually win a Pro Tour. There you see another copy of Solemn Simulacrum. Raffaele Moro off to the same start he had last game, turn 4 yens.
Getting into
Solemn Simulacrum.
turn 4, the yen section of the game. There really are basically, you know, a couple stages of the game. There's the early game where absolutely nothing happens. There's
Yep.
the yens game where
And Jens gets electrostatic bolted. That's the same play Kuroda made in the second game that we watched. I'm never sure whether you want to trade a bolt to kill Solemn Simulacrum, let your
your
draw a
bolts
card,
don't
but
do anything else.
I guess that's right.
I mean, if you're gonna have electrostatic bolt in your deck still, I mean that's what it's gonna do is kill yens.
Blinkmoth Nexus comes over. Did he come over for 2?
2.
Yeah. Comes over for 2.
That's another difference between the 2 decks. The Blink Moth Nexuses versus the Stalking Stones. I'm actually much more of a fan of the Blink Moth Nexuses
I am
than
too.
I am of the Stalking Stones.
I played Stalking Stones back in the day, but the Nexus just seems better.
Yeah, the Nexus. Well, I mean, it depends on the deck that you're playing them in.
So many people hated that card when Darksteel came out too.
Really?
Well, I'm always reading the internet, sort of watching people's reactions to the sets, and everyone seemed to think Blinkmoth Nexus was terrible.
Had people played with Mishra's Factory in the past?
Everyone looked at it and compared it to Mishra's, and it looks worse than Mishra's.
It is worse than Mishra's
Right.
Factory.
Agree.
I mean, it better be because Mishra's Factory was fairly ridiculous.
Well, arc-slogger comes down on turn 5 for Raffaele Moro.
That's not good for Kuroda.
No,
Kuroda's deck does not have Grab the Reins. He doesn't have any good ways to deal with an arc-slogger.
It's to shrapnel blast it, basically?
Yes.
Or fireball it?
I mean, Shrapnel Blast and Fireball are really his only good answers to arc-slogger. It's a turn 4. It's a turn 5.
No, it's turn 4.
Yeah,
Turn 4 Jens, turn 5
I was
arc-slogger.
thinking
He's
there.
out of land, so he had
Yeah.
only the 5 lands on turn 5. Kuroda, deep in thought. Got his eyes closed, staring at the table. It's interesting. Is he trying to figure out whether he has to burn it or not? I mean, he can He must have Shrapnel Blast, right?
Probably.
And it's decision time. Shrapnel Blast the arc-slogger or save it to go dome shot with it. It's got to be what he's thinking.
It seems like he can't possibly let the arc-slogger live. I mean,
your opponent's at 18. It shouldn't be time to be doing the endgame math, right?
I mean, last
first
game it was Barb Lightning you. All right, now you're dead.
Right. He only has the 1 red mana, which I find kind of interesting. Like, he can't, for example, go Barb Lightning Electrostatic Bolt, which might be something he wants to do.
I mean, he could go... no, he can't. He can't even Pyrite Spellbomb in Barb Lightning, because that requires red to activate as well.
Yeah. We'll see what Kuroda comes up with. Looks like a match has ended in the background. I'll get you an update on that. No, it's 2-2. Alexandre Passe has forced game 5 against Stefano Fiore. So.
Kuroda 20, Ramadan 17.
I believe was that an attack for 1?
Wow.
That's interesting.
Attacks for 1 with Blink Moth.
That's some interesting math. Attack you for 1. This is a Barb Lightning going to the face.
Arc-slogger cracks back the other way. Moro attacking with his giant man. Lots of Arc-sloggers in this event.
Oh, yes.
Even more than Furnace Dragon. It seemed like Arc-slogger might have been the creature of the weekend. Wow. Just, I told you that Passe had even that match at 4. I just heard Hal shunt on a giant fireball, taking defeat turning defeat into victory, forcing game 5.
It's sort of like a mind slaver. It's like, no, you fireballed yourself. Sorry about that. I was actually discussing it at breakfast with Brian David Marshall and Josh Bennett about they were talking about how the Mike LeConto Pro Tour 1 deck seems to get better with age. And I mean, there you have the deflection of the LeConto deck.
Oh, sure.
Shunt that. Boom. Although in this format, there's a few more things to deflect.
True. So Moro plays another Solemn Simulacrum. He's attacked with his Arc-slogger and played ends. And he's got to be nervous. That, like, think forever, plink you with 1 with Blink Moth Nexus. What is going on from Masashiro Kuroda?
I mean, he can't, even double Shrapnel Blast doesn't do it here.
Well, we'll find out. End step, Barb Lightning, Barb U. Straight to the dome with the Barb Lightning. That drops Moro to 14. He draws, probably needs a mountain. Mountain. And he looked happy when he played that mountain. That was what he wanted.
Fireball U?
Fireball Slogger. Fireball
okay.
Slogger. Basically, okay, so he's been burning. He's been trying to set up, get the 6th land he needs for the Slogger. So any land would have been there. Didn't have to be a mountain. And now Moro has to figure out whether to respond, right? And he did. He pointed 2 Arc-slogger activations straight at Kuroda's head. So Kuroda's going to fall to 12 here, and Moro will be out 20 cards from his library when the game continues. 12 to 14.
But Yen's in play.
Another update, Jelger Wiegersma has taken his match from Luigi Sprazzi.
I don't get to make my searching for Bobby Fischer references then. That's so sad.
What?
You know
what?
Searching for Sprazzi?
Yes.
You know, there's a scene where Lawrence Fishburne's character's playing chess in the park.
All right.
And he's playing against this guy. He's a hustler, a chess hustler. And the guy sits down. There's all these people whispering in the background. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, it's Shirazi. It's
All
like,
right.
oh, Shirazi, the Grandmaster's here. What, you come to hustle the hustler, Grandmaster? That's a great scene.
It's a good movie.
And
I don't remember
Sprazzi.
but
No, the guy's name is Shirazi. It
All
sounds
right.
so much like Sprazzi. I was just so excited to be able to make that reference.
All right.
But I can't now.
I think you just did.
I did, it's true. Jelger ruined it for me. Thanks a lot, Jelger.
Meanwhile, that Solemn Simulacrum just died to Electrostatic Bolt. Once again, no creatures in play. Kuroda's at 10, Moro 14, and they're doing burn math. Well, Moro says go. Does nothing with his 8 untapped mountains. That can't be good for the Italian.
Not at all.
I mean, I guess he can be.
He could be
waiting
sitting
to
there
kill
waiting to
Blink
fireball.
Moth?
He could also just be sitting there waiting to fireball.
He's got 8 mana.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got 8. Well, go.
He's got a lot of
is
cards,
scary.
too.
Yes.
It's a whole lot of cards.
None of them gain any life, though. Dome shot.
黒田3
Kuroda drops to 3 from that fireball. I think he needs to deal some damage here. Pulse of the Forge.
Double shrapnel
Moro drops
blast.
to 10. Pulse comes back. Can he deal 10 before he lets Raffaele
Double
Moro
shrapnel
untap?
blast this game.
Yep, double shrapnel blast, or no, pretty much just double shrapnel blast, right?
I believe so.
He's got the 2 Darksteel Citadels, so he's got the artifacts he needs. Moro just fireballed him down to 3, so he knows he needs to win now, I think. But attack with Blink Moth. And he has to say go. All right, Moro untaps. You got it, Raffaele? He's thinking.
I would guess he does.
No, he says go.
Go.
There's Pulse of the Forge
Wow.
again.
That's
Oh, that fireball hurt, actually.
Yeah, he's just going to get
Now
pulsed
Lamoro's
out now.
down to 5.
He can get
Pulse and
fireballed
Blink
out
Moth
right
is the
now.
game, right?
Yeah, well-
or 1 blast. Masashiro Kuroda points fireball at Raffaele Moro's head.
Wow.
The sweep. The Japanese
3-0.
hero, Masashiro Kuroda. 3-0 sweep. He's through to the semifinals. We'll take a short break. We'll bring you more coverage of the quarterfinals right after this.